Well, welcome and good evening. It's good to have Margaret with me, Margaret Arnold, as we are discussing this evening for tonight's Purple Team meeting, the Serviceberry. It's fairly new. I think it was published last year, a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Kimmerer, we read her book Braiding Sweetgrass last year, and a bunch of us fell in love with it. And so when we realized that she had another one out this year. It became easy to pick it next in the 2025 list. The book is subtitled "Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World." I know it's on your list to read, but you haven't read it yet, Margaret. So
No,
what I thought I would do is just kind of do a little bit of a summary, do a little bit of reading some quotes, and I'd love to hear your kind of even first blush feedback on some of these ideas. I really think there's some really important ideas in what she says, even to the point that I quoted from her a couple of weeks ago in my sermon. So um, I think it's valuable to kind of think through some of what she shares. I guess the first question, Margaret, do you know what a serviceberry is? Do you know service berries? You know
I
serviceberry
do
books?
not.
I did not before the book. I guess I probably walked by them 100 times and didn't even notice. I tend not to know differences between berries. I can say, oh yeah, I recognize those. Those are, something that I've seen before, but I don't know exactly. But the first thing that's fascinating about her book is just kind of this initial description of what the serviceberry is. It is a really important berry as far as if you may or may not know that Robin Wall Kimmerer is Potawatomi, and so amongst the Potawatomi people, there is a pretty significant reliance on anticipation of the service berries, that they become pretty important. I'm going to read a quote or two from them, or from her, about what she's talking about with them. Um, let's see, where's the quote that I wanted to read? Oh, this is one thing that I like. Serviceberry is known as a calendar plant, so faithful it is to seasonal weather patterns. Its bloom is a sign that the ground has thawed, and in this folklore, this was the time that mountain roads became passable for circuit preachers who arrived to conduct church services. It is also a reliable indicator to fisher folk that the shad are running upstream, or at least it was back in the day when rivers were clear and free enough to support the spawning of shad. So as a preacher, I love the suggestion that the service berries help remind people when the services would begin, when the circuit preachers would come around and begin to be available, be around. Now, I don't think that's. She goes on to say that there's other more etymological reasons why it's called Serviceberry. It's more about the Latin than it is about the circuit riders, but it's still kind of fun. I like that definition of it. It's a fun one for me to imagine.
I liked it too. It's a kind of assurance that you're not going to be left starving in the wild, too. There's
Yeah,
something you can rely on if the
right.
service berries are there.
Yeah, yeah. And I
And
think that no, go ahead.
that's important in any undertaking that you know that you're not going to be at least utterly destroyed when you are in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Have you heard that phrase before, a calendar plant?
No, I haven't. I think I've heard it, but not known what it is.
Yeah, and I hadn't even heard it, I don't think, as far as I know, but I mean, it's pretty obvious what it means, but still, it's kind of a cool idea that you can kind of set your calendar on things that happen at certain times, and I find that sometimes with different trees and different plants in our neighborhood. sometimes I don't know if your phone does this, but my phone sometimes will say, you took this picture a year ago, exactly a year ago on this date. And I take a bunch of pictures of flowers, a bunch of pictures of trees and that kind of thing. And sometimes I'm fascinated by, I can see the picture that says a year ago, you took a picture of this plant and it looked like this. And I could walk outside and it would look almost exactly the same, as it did a year ago. And I think that's kind of the calendarization of some of those plants.
It's a kind of assurance if it comes around the next year. It's like
Yeah.
the prophecy to Noah that seed time and harvest are going to alternate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. I think the assurance is, really kind of one of the key ideas that she's talking about in the book as a whole. She says, and we'll get to this a little bit more in depth in a bit, but she talks about the importance of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think your connection there that we can be assured that the signs around us, and then of course as people of faith say, we know that God is at work in these
Mm-hmm.
assurances, right? That there is one who is that assures providence and assures protection and assures presence. And so whether it's the maple trees that start to turn red at about the same time every year, or the
Mm-hmm.
service berries, that assurance means something, right?
And we take it for granted, but when we think about it, it is a kind of promise that, yes, we can plan, life will go on, God
Yeah,
is with us.
sure, sure. Yeah, and it's interesting, Robin Wall Kimmerer is not. She doesn't use language of, I'm a Christian and I'm telling you about Jesus. It's interesting how her books though feel like, it's very in tune and in touch with the gospel that Jesus preached, and so much of the land theology of the Old Testament, and so. Well, even this, I'll read another section here that I think overlaps with what we're talking about. Again, she comes back to, she loves talking about the language. I remember this from Braiding Sweetgrass, but she talks about how important language is to how we describe things. And she says the word for Serviceberry is Bozak, Bozak mean, or Bozak min. And she says, for me, the most important part of the word Bozak min is the min, the root for berry. It
Mm.
appears in all of these different other berries. She lists a bunch of them: blueberry, strawberry, raspberry, apple, maize, wild rice. And then she writes, that word is a revelation because it is also the root word for gift.
Mm.
Felt like that was a revelation in and of itself, right? That as we know the one who we can hold assurance or holds assurance for us, we know the giver of good and perfect gifts, right?
Do you want to get grace in there?
Yeah, right. And I think she talks about, I don't know that she necessarily uses the word grace, but that's the way we describe it, isn't it? As people of faith, that's what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. Um, so yeah, as she speaks more of this model of giftedness, she moves to this idea again of gratitude. She says this kind of gratitude is so much more than a polite thank you, not an automatic ritual of manners, but a recognition of indebtedness that can stop you in your tracks. It brings you to the realization that your life is nurtured from the body of Mother Earth. And then she says, with my fingers sticky with berry juice, I'm reminded that my life is contingent upon the lives of others without whom I simply would not exist.
That's a nice transition
Uh,
because she's personally assured, but then there's that link with other people are okay too.
yeah, 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 and that is definitely an important point. We're going to get to that, I think, within the next couple few chapters. But but starting with that idea that you can't, if you start with gratitude, it's going to change, it's going to have ripple effects, right? It's going to have more impact beyond that. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking too much. What does gratitude mean in your life, Margaret? How do you see whether it's connected to nature or connected to something else? Where have you been experiencing gratitude lately?
Oh, it is connected to nature. There's a kind of assurance that something that say I can put my mind to sitting by a river in Cambridge and uh, still have a memory of it and how I felt there. So
Yeah,
they're the natural, gracious intervals. But it's also connected with people, memories, books.
yeah. Yeah, as you say that, I'm reminded, I get kind of I get kind of Luddite sometimes about social media and about phones and stuff like that. But when I'm sitting in a 100-degree Kansas summer, or even just, even if it's nice weather outside, but it's dark and I can't get outside, and I look at some of those pictures,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram or on something, and I'm kind of drawn back. I mean, there's some pictures of people who are climbing the Rockies in Colorado, and I think about times when I've done that, or they're sitting by a stream that has nothing to do with the streams that I've been, but it looks like it and it feels like it, and it draws you back to that gratitude, doesn't it?
It does. And I don't know if you have to have the memories of it or whether there's something that we associate with, say, sitting by a lake. And if
Yeah.
we're fortunate, taking part in a Vesper service, even, or
Yeah.
just sitting there and having time by ourselves.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I love um, the comparison, right? It could be a formal worship service, or it could be an informal worship service, right? A prayer service,
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm,
you and the lake and the presence of God. Well, and Jesus taught us that too, right? He said, go up into the hills to, or he didn't tell us that, but he showed us. He went up into the hills to pray, and that's where
mm-hmm.
he connected in nature as well.
And it's interesting that he especially appeared to need that. I was thinking of the time that the disciples were asleep below near the lake and he was up in the high places because he needed that time
Mhm.
alone with nature in a special place.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I definitely need that. Our blue team runner group
Mm-hmm.
is considering taking a trip in October, and we don't know exactly where we're going yet. But it feels like this is the point where there's just so many memories that flood to say, oh, I remember I went to this place. Let's go back here. Or, oh, I've never been here, but I've seen pictures of it. I want to go here. Or one of us has been to this, but the others haven't been to this. And so, yeah, it does kind of draw, and gratitude's in the middle of it, right? I think that gratitude
Mm-hmm.
makes that relevant. She writes about, specifically about many indigenous peoples inherit what she calls a culture of gratitude. She says where lifeways are organized around recognition and responsibility for earthly gifts, both ceremonial and pragmatic. And is that not much like what we're talking about, right? Whether it's a Vesper
Mm-hmm.
service in our
Mm-hmm.
language or a prayer experience, it's a different culture, but a similar experience in a lot of ways. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, and then she writes about this idea of enoughness. She
What
says,
was that word again, Matt?
well, I don't know that it's a real word, but it's a great concept.
I didn't
En
get it.
enoughness.
Oh, okay.
So the process of understanding that there is enough, right?
Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
we are enough, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's a noun, I guess, of this adjective. And so she says recognizing enoughness is a radical act in an economy that's always urging us to consume more.
Oh, I see. It's compared with that feeling that we'll never get enough.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Well, and then she goes on to talk about she says the practice of gratitude changes some of that not enoughness, right? And she doesn't use that term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Uh, she'll go on, and I used the terms in the sermon a couple of weeks ago, the difference between scarcity and abundance, right? And so the
mm-hmm.
scarcity, there is not enough. And she says gratitude, she says puts a brakes on these things, right? It puts a brakes on hyperconsumption. She says climate catastrophe, biodiversity loss are the consequences of unrestrained taking by humans. She says, might cultivation of gratitude be a part of the solution?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. And then you brought up her next point a minute ago. In a way, she says, if our first response to the receipt of gifts is gratitude, our second is reciprocity, to give a gift in return. And you kind of highlighted that, right? To say, it's not just thanks God for all these good gifts. Thanks, I'm glad I got this stuff. But then how do I,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, it's as though we're not quite whole until we accept the the predicted gift, because you said that it was something that you entered in nature. But when you get it, then you know that you have the ability to continue and do what God wants you to do, or what you feel that you need to do to keep the bounds existing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then of course she goes back to this the metaphor of the serviceberry, saying, when the birds show up to the serviceberry tree, they eat their fill.
Mm-hmm.
Serviceberry is an overly sweet berry that birds just love, so they gorge themselves on it, and then sure enough they fly away, and they spread the seeds through their droppings
Mm-hmm.
all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. So the birds love it. The trees love it. The bushes love it. Serviceberry is kind of in some places it's a bush, in some places it's a tree. But whatever it is, it grows up as soon as the birds start doing their work. And so both are flourishing, right?
Well, and bringing the birds in, spreading it too, suggests an analogy with us. We're supposedly spiritually fed, and then we have something to give when
Right.
we
That's right.
fly away.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love that. I love that image, right? So it's a bit crass, but we're going to go spread droppings of grace wherever we go.
Right, right.
Well, gratitude, right? That we as we go from this place, it's not just for our own gorging. We don't just come to church to be gorged, right? We come to
Mhm.
share with others in this place, but then share with others beyond. Yeah. I love it. It's a good definition of evangelism, I think. I'll have to fine tune that image a little bit of bird droppings for Jesus.
Right. I have to listen for it on Sundays.
Right, yes. Oh, well, let's see. I think she kind of sets the tone then in terms of abundance, generosity, reciprocity. Of course, the baseline for all of it is gratitude. Um, let's see. Okay, now she starts moving into kind of the next phase. Any other comments about kind of this gratitude and abundance? Again, this is going to be a big part of the rest of what she's going to say, but any other thoughts or ideas before we move to the next section?
Not right this minute. I'm sure it will grow.
Yeah. Um, indeed, what she does next is she moves into kind of making it into this conversation about economy and economy in multiple ways. She has, see if I can find the quote, which you would appreciate as a Greek scholar. Um, Here it is. She says the words ecology and economy come from the same root, the Greek oikos, meaning
Oh,
home,
home.
home
Yeah.
or household, yes.
Yes.
The systems of relationship, the goods and services that keep us alive. Did you know that? That ecology and economy were connected to this word for home?
I hadn't thought about it, but indeed they are. And I'll have to think more about what home means. That's a very rich word, not only in Greek, but in any time we encounter it, because um, different writers, for instance, think about home. And my favorite, John Milton, said, home is wherever it is well with one. And then you have to think, well, what do you need to be well in your mind and soul and body?
Yeah, yeah, right. And she takes that turn too, I think. That's a great quote, great connection, because I think what she does is start to say, if we start thinking economically, right, using this model of abundance, uses this model of kind of household, what we need, to flourish for ourselves and those around us, then it changes kind of the initial point of how we think economically on a national scale, on an
Mm-hmm.
international scale. Um, and so she writes, well, she starts quoting from different folks in this chapter, of kind of this idea of, what she's going to talk a lot about, what she refers to as a gift economy, moving away from a kind of an economic system that's based on scarcity to one
Mm-hmm.
that's based on abundance, one that's based on, gratitude, one that's based on reciprocity, right? These same kind
Mm-hmm.
keep spinning. Um, she quotes scientist and philosopher Marshall Solins, says he names generalized reciprocity as the heart of a gift economy, which functions most effectively in small, close-knit communities. Those
Mm-hmm.
who have give to those who don't, so that everyone in the system has what they need. Um, it's not regulated from above, but derives from a collective sense of equity. And again, this quote, enoughness and accountability in distributing the gifts of the earth. I don't know if you heard this from me a couple of weeks ago. I told the story of a group of anthropologists who saw a hunter return back from a very successful hunt. And when he came back, the anthropologists assumed that he would take this meat and he would dry it, he would store it, and he would keep it for a time that it was less predictable, or the weather was not as secure. But he didn't. He threw a big party instead. Had all his friends over, and he had a big feast, and everybody came over. And the anthropologist said, "Well, what? Why would you do this? Why would you not store the meat?" And he looked at them and said, "Well, I am. I'm storing the meat in the belly of my brother." And that model of gift economy uh,
Mm-hmm.
changes the expectation.
It's a way of thinking that I'm not sure we have. I think, or we have it, but we should practice it more.
Right.
As
Yeah.
the idea that if you make someone else able, then you've, in a way, built a network that survives.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's again, the catchphrase she says is, on the back of the book, all flourishing is mutual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really
Mm-hmm.
won't be flourishing unless we're all flourishing. Um, well, what's the quote from Dr. King, that injustice anywhere is injustice,
Right, right.
right? And so it's kind of the same thing, same idea in reverse, right? That when one is flourishing, then we can all flourish, if we do it this way, right? As opposed to kind of a commodification or scarcity mindset that says
Mm-hmm.
flourish because only some of us can flourish, and you're out of luck because I'm going to keep it for myself.
Well, I'm sure that the definitions of economy have muted since I was learning about it because it used to be very much individual when we were growing up, uh, very much oriented toward um, mathematics and dollars. And now
Oh,
we're thinking about a widespread contribution to a home and an extended home of survival, a community, and many links to each other and to a source.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say that yes and no. I mean, I think there's still a pretty definite chunk of the population that still defines economy in the first way. But and actually, she writes about that. See if I can find that quote. Yeah, here I quoted this on the sermon too. She said, on the website of the American Economic Association, it says that the definition of economics is this: it's the study of scarcity, the study of how people use resources and respond to incentives. So it's still, in that case, very individually focused, very much. This is a zero sum game. You got to get what you can get, and there's not enough for everybody, and so you have to make sure. But then you're right. I think there are people that are shifting toward more of a model of saying, well, it doesn't have to be that way, right? We don't have to define it in those kind of narrow terms.
Well, if you take the root as oikos, which is a home or a church, then there are many facets to it.
Wow. Well, yeah, say more. Tell me more as a Greek scholar. Tell me more about what that word connotes.
Well, I would have to get my dictionary out, but
Yeah.
it's house, home, community,
Um,
even a feeling that you're taking part in something that links you to other people. Um, you would use a root like that with an
uh,
oikos, and it's not necessarily material. It could be also something psychological or spiritual that binds you to a place or other people or to convictions.
wow. Yeah. No. I like that. There's been a move more recently in a lot of social service agencies to say to kind of change our language a little bit instead of saying, well, that person is homeless, suggesting, well, this person doesn't have a house, or even this person is houseless. Um, but by your definition that you just shared, they may very well have a home. Their home could be a community of other people that are houseless. It could well be a family member that supports them, even if they don't have a roof over their head. It could be some other version of a spiritual home. And so to say, well, you're homeless might be a pretty limiting and limited understanding of that person. Um, to say, well, you might not have a house right now, but tell me about what your home looks like. Um,
I'll have to write down some thoughts on that because um, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is material.
right. Yeah. Um, and that doesn't mean as Christians that keeps us from saying, well, those people are fine, right? I mean, it's still part of our responsibility to say all flourishing is mutual, right? So are there ways that we can make sure we are amending structures or changing structures or opening doors so that a person who wants a house, not just a home in the community in that way, but says, no, it's safer in a house. It's more secure in a house. I had a house and lost it because of this, and this. How do we reverse that kind of crisis? Um, but it does suggest we can give a different level of respect to folks because they are homemaking, they are oikos making, even if it looks different than what we have done in our own experience.
And I'm
Yeah.
wondering whether it's something that all of us need.
Mm-hmm. Say more about that.
Um, do we need to identify somehow while we're on this earth with, with uh, not only people and places that are home like, but something that makes us feel comfortable within ourselves? And I'm
Uh,
going to have to think about that.
yeah, yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, that gives me some to think about too, right? Because I think by that different definition, very easily, somebody who has a house may or may not have a home, right? I mean, they may
Right,
or may not
right.
have oikos in the same model of, they may have a place to lay their heads, but if they don't feel like they have a community, if they don't feel like they have a place of belonging,
Mm-hmm,
those hierarchy of needs, right? And that's one of the baselines is shelter, right? But pretty high, pretty soon after it is love and belonging, right? And so that's
mm-hmm.
of of our met need as well. And so perhaps those that don't have predictable shelter have some level of belonging, and then the reverse is also true. Sometimes those that have the shelter don't have that sense of belonging and love.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I tend to get so darn verbal because uh, I think about the shelter, but then I wonder if, a sort of alignment of beliefs and ideas makes us feel that, in a sense, we have a home that isn't totally visible, but that is very real.
Sure, sure, yeah, 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 and um, I, I hear that as somebody who's just gone through a process of changing where you live, right? And so you've
Mm-hmm,
probably thinking a lot about home and what is home and what is not home, and where do I feel welcomed and where do I feel secure, and what makes me feel secure, and so yeah, I appreciate your wisdom from a very potentially vulnerable place and some of the changes in your own life.
well, it's different.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Well, Robin Wall Kimmerer definitely has some more to say about from the individual, like we're talking more kind of person to person, community to community, to larger scale. She talks about then what do we do to scale some of this up?
Mm-hmm,
Uh, and her question then is how do you what looks like when it gets scaled from a one-to-one or a small community or tight-knit community to the bigger picture, right? And then she
mm-hmm,
says definitely the kind of individualistic scarcity mindset, it gets pretty violent pretty quick, right? Then you're talking about people who need to take from another or need to abuse another, right? These are people who turn into takers instead of givers,
mm-hmm,
in terms of um, instead of making it a priority to make sure that all of their employees have a living wage, they're saying, how can I impact the bottom line, right? And how can I make sure
mm-hmm,
I'm safe, and how can I make sure that I'm getting my whatever my income needs to be for me to be comfortable, whatever that definition is, right? And so it feels less about mutual flourishing, and it feels more, about scaled up again, commodification, about kind of just maximizing return on one's investment, and kind of moving toward that, again, a zero sum game to say there's only so much, and if I'm going to get all of the things that I want, then you're out of luck, right?
mm-hmm,
But then she builds on the second model then, this gift economy model, says, you can start to build, in kind of these prophetic ways and these countercultural ways, a gift economy of scale also. She writes about, she says, I learned about active circles of free cycling, repair cafes, donated mugs in the coffee shop replacing disposables, clothing swaps, the buy nothing movement, campus free stores, where dorm room necessities are passed among generations of students without a penny exchange. I learn about I talked about this in the sermon too. Some of her students talk about TikTok videos and YouTube videos where you can learn anything because someone has made a gift of their time and experience to share with anyone who wants it. She says, I learn about mutual aid societies, local gift economies, alternative local currencies, money-free work exchanges, cooperative farms, peer-to-peer lending, and more. And so when she defines it that way, I'm like, there is more of that going on than I realized. Had you thought about some of those, maybe more common, not as common, but at least things that you've heard of before?
Well, I think it's very attractive. And I associate it with, in our own lives, a time when we didn't have much. So we would know other young couples who would trade off. Uh, Maybe one of us was, even academically, one of us knew one subject and another one knew another one. And we would work on it. Or we would trade childcare times because we couldn't afford babysitters. So
Yeah,
this associated with being poor and new students or newlyweds um, when you didn't have money. Um,
right, right.
so you learned to kind of you relied on your friends.
Huh? Huh. Yeah, what a beautiful picture. I mean, as you're as you're describing this picture, I'm thinking about, where did we go wrong? Right now, all of us own our own lawnmower and we stick it in
Mm-hmm.
the garage for, 6 and 7/8 days. And then we pull it out and we mow the lawn, as opposed to why couldn't we share one lawnmower in the cul-de-sac, or share, one set of tools, or share. I love the idea of shared babysitting duties, taking turns to say, all right, the Arnolds, you guys get to go out this Friday night. The Johnsons, you guys get to go out next Friday night. And I love it. I mean, it sounds like we know how to do that better than maybe we think we do.
I think we do it, and then we get settled in our ways, and uh, the idea of taking care of our own, and uh, we're less likely to reach out. And some of that still happens. Um, I've had a good experience with people who wanted to learn something. Sometimes uh, a friend would teach me or call on me, and I would talk to him or her about a book that I knew something about. So,
Yeah.
in a sort of attenuated way, we still have that kind of exchange.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a gift economy, right? In terms of you have a gift to share with somebody else. I mean, that's kind of the same model of a YouTube video that says, I don't know how to drywall, so I'm going to look up how to drywall on YouTube, and somebody who knows that information has put a video out there about how to drywall. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably dozens, if not hundreds, of videos about how to drywall. And I think of your suggestion, Margaret, or even what we're doing right now, right? I mean, I think we're sharing ideas, and we're going to post this on the website at some point, as a way to say, we're in this kind of exchange of, we can watch a podcast from somebody and we can share these ideas with somebody else, and it becomes kind of a shared economy of knowledge.
It's very attractive to me because I think it's possible to be very isolated and coping with, say, whatever comes over the news every day. And it's nice to know that um, you have, you can reach out and know that there are alternatives to what is negative or difficult. Uh,
Right.
that's something that you undertake as a challenge, doesn't require you to go back to the very beginning because somebody is going to share with you. So I wonder if this is something that we're realizing at this point in our problems and social evolutions, that we're going back to this interchange.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. Robin Wall Kimmerer would say that in some level, we've always known it. She talks about even examples of public goods like parks, right? I mean, parks are something to say we're all going to give a little bit of our tax money so that we have one place that we can share. of green space, right? Or a library. She talks about
Hmm. Yeah.
libraries, and she uses the model of the little free library that a lot of people have in their neighborhoods, but then the big free library, right? It takes a little bit
Hmm.
more tax dollars to build, structures and have staff, but at the same time, it is based on the same kind of idea. And we don't always think it that way, right? We always think, well, this is a service and I paid for it, and so you think of it in this kind of scarcity mindset. But ideally, it comes from an abundance mindset, to say we can do this better together, than each of us having our own, a warehouse full of books, that we can go back and look at. Instead, let's say, let's put all of our books in a warehouse together, so that we can borrow from each other when we need to.
Yes, I wonder how much of this, if we looked at what we have now and thought of it in different words, it would be like the library as a way of sharing so that we don't each have to buy basic reference books and that sort of thing. Uh, if we realize that we're already doing it and we're just not thinking of it as a kind of shared enterprise.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting how, well, we're in this place, and you and I have kind of had conversations about how we like books like this, right? Things that we can
Mm-hmm.
touch, to read, and things that we can underline. But there is definitely a move away from that toward, the World Wide Web is a library in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Is this block of shared information, and that information is, can sometimes be repeated in books, but it is a experience of how do we share together this knowledge, and whether it's, I can spend some money and get a digital copy of this book, or I can go to the library and I can borrow this book, or I can, once I'm done reading this book, I can put it in the little free library in my neighborhood around the corner that
Mm-hmm.
we go home. And
I'm thinking about a sharing of skills while you were talking too,
yeah,
because uh, you or even someone younger than we are, who's very well versed in doing research on the web, uh, could probably benefit someone like me who usually runs to the library and looks at reference books first,
right.
in going ahead as society evolves.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the need for you and I to use the Dewey Decimal System is,
Yes.
it's not what it used to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I love that idea. Almost what knowledge can I give you, in return for, the knowledge that you give me, to help look up a YouTube video, or to help figure out, how to navigate, a project that I'm having, whether it's a research-based project or a practical project, or whatever it is. Um, and Robin Wall Kimmerer is not naive. She's not like, well, we're all just gonna have this, live in a commune together, right? I mean, she talks about this being part of a mixed economy, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
says we're not gonna be without the need for currency. We're not gonna be without the need for government, without the need for kind of these cultural institutions. She's not encouraging us to just, burn all the institutions and just live in this kind of, kumbaya world. But she says, what if in the midst of those institutions, we can, kind of insert these gift economy values, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just how you're describing, right? What are some of the ways that we can say, I'm going to offer this gift, even if I get nothing in return, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to share my, bounty in the belly of my brother, right? Even my brother never shares back with me. I'm going to go ahead and gift that, because that's what my gratitude inspires me to do.
Well, I wonder if other people feel as I do. I'm delighted if somebody wants to know something that I know and I could.
Right? Yes. Yeah, and that's true too. I do think that, there's kind of a, oh, I don't want to diminish it by calling it an ego thing, but when somebody posts something on YouTube and they realize that 500 people read their thing about how to fix drywall, and
Hmm.
400 of them hit like. Then they're like, oh, all right, well, maybe this is valuable. I can, and sometimes people, I mean, I'm not naive about that. Sometimes people turn that and then commodify it to say, look, I've had this many followers, subscribe to my channel. I mean, it could well be that it can be turned into a money making thing.
Hmm.
But a lot of folks don't. They never turn it into that. They never expect to turn it into that. Um, Again, I love looking at some pictures on social media from some phenomenal photographers, and I know that some
Hmm.
of them
Yeah.
are putting some of their images online so that one day they can also sell a print to the same people that say, "Oh, I love that picture of the eagle. I wonder if they have any pictures of bears." Uh,
Hmm.
and I know that that happens, um, but there is also a thing of connecting with people just for the sake of beauty, right? Just for the sake of gifting, and I think there's some great value there. All right,
Well,
let's see. What's left? Sorry, did I interrupt?
no, I was just thinking of examples in our church. Uh, Kylie was reading online different books for a while, and I thought that was a gift because
Yeah,
she was
no,
taking time and sharing something that we could tune into and enjoy.
yeah, yeah. And especially somebody that loves literature and
Hmm.
reads in a way you can tell her love for the source material. And she read, did you see when she read Robin Wall Kimmerer's first book or one of her other books, the Braiding Sweetgrass book? That was one of the books
Yes.
that she read.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
listened to some of those.
yeah. Um, I it's fascinating to see her make this move, kind of back and forth seamlessly from these examples of like you're sharing about Kylie or about a YouTube video or about your experience with sharing your knowledge of Shakespeare or of a book or and then she seamlessly makes the move to say that's what communities of ecology are based on.
Hmm.
And she pulls it back to the service berries.
And
To
it's
say,
been, yeah, it's been such a joy. I think we should foster it, and I'm sure we can if we turn our minds to it.
right, right, yeah, yeah. I mean, and she says that spending time in nature kind of reminds us of some of that a different oikos, right? A different kind of household experience.
Hmm.
And again, I mean, I don't, again, I'm not, I don't think she's naive about it, realizes that, nature also, gives this gift so that it can get something in return, right? Just like the
Hmm.
service berries saying, I need these birds to basically have the next generation of service berries be planted somewhere else, right? And
Right.
so there is it's not true altruism, she writes in here at one point, um, but it is, in part realizing that I can give some, knowing that my gift inspires a reciprocity that then I also benefit from.
Hmm.
So. I don't know, maybe it feels the same, and in a sense of scarcity, it would, right? But if it's in a sense of abundance, no, it feels like the gift is there regardless of what the result. The berries are going to taste sweet regardless of if the birds get them or not.
Hmm.
But because they taste sweet, that gift is given freely, and the birds do their part, right?
Well,
So
and then
yeah,
I become critical, and I think, uh, yes, we need to foster this, but does this sharing sometimes not work? And
mhm,
while we were talking, I thought about the early church and
yeah,
having all things in common and some of that didn't always work out.
right? It was the first two chapters of Acts, and then it started getting messy already,
Right.
right? Um, but I think, I mean, she does. I'm going to read another section that kind of reflects some of that. Maybe I don't know if suspicion's the right word, but at least cynicism that this isn't ideal, right? This isn't perfect. It requires some work here. She says intentional communities of mutual self-reliance and reciprocity are the way for the future. Their currency is sharing. But then she goes on and says, I don't think market capitalism is going to vanish. The faceless institutions that benefit from it are too entrenched. The thieves are very powerful. But I don't think it's pie in the sky to imagine that we could create incentives to nurture a gift economy that runs right alongside of the market economy. After all, what we crave is not trickle down faceless profits, but reciprocal face to face relationships, which are naturally abundant but made scarce by the anonymity of large scale economics. We have the power to change that, to develop the local reciprocal economies that serve community rather than undermine it. And so I think there is a pretty clear-eyed vision that this is not going to turn everything upside down tomorrow.
No.
But I do think, and she sees value in again injecting, kind of like a virus, injecting this kind of gift economy mindset into the world around us.
It's a reminder of potential that so easy to forget.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, here's another line that says some of the same thing. She says the extractive practices of the colonists must be replaced with reciprocity and replenishment if anyone is to survive. Investing in persistence, the new inhabitants are in it for the long haul. These communities have to be called mature and sustainable in contrast to the adolescent behavior of the predecessors. This transition from exploitation to reciprocity, from the individual good to the common good, has been seen as a parallel to the transition that colonizing human societies must undergo, from hoarding to circulation, from independent to interdependent, from wounding to healing, if we are to thrive into the future. Can I get an amen?
Amen. It's a big task. That's a wonderful goal.
Yeah, right. And again, she doesn't name it with any kind of naivete. She says the way this happens is she says two things happen. She says first it must be incremental change. It happens, one Margaret Arnold phone call to offer, a free Shakespeare lesson at a time, right? Those are the kind of these gifts that you offer and that you share, and that others can do as well. And it happens slowly. It happens kind of a steady replacement of I value you as somebody who can receive this gift, not I fear that if I give this to you, you better give me something in return. And then the second thing she says, it relies on disturbance, what she calls a disruption of the status quo. And so disruption of the status quo in order to let new species emerge and flower. She's always a naturalist, and in kind of the bottom line is always kind of thinking about the ways that that a new species will exist in ways, and she talks about it even in Darwinian terms. She says that a lot of biologists are moving away from kind of this model of social Darwinism, or even in naturalist circles, moving away from the survival of the fittest. She says the survival of the fittest works in very narrow terms to say this person or this place or this individual representation of this species can exist because they are more fit than others. But in the long run, it really is flourishing. It's more about species learning to work with each other and support each other. Sorry, I get kind of excited
Yes,
about
I
this.
have to get the book because I don't think we're exposed to the science of an alternative to Darwinism and at least when I went to school.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can find one of the maybe not a quote, but at least uh, she quotes a lot of people that I have not heard of, and it's kind of the same idea that you're saying, right? I have not been exposed to this stuff. I wish I had been to say that there's an alternate to some of this. Um, Here it is. Maybe this is one of them. Yeah, evolutionary biologist David Sloan. You know that name?
No, I don't.
I don't either, or I didn't before reading this. Um, oh, sorry, David Sloan Wilson. So David
Mhm.
Sloan Wilson has found that competition makes sense only when we consider the unit of evolution to be the individual. When the focus shifts to the level of the group, cooperation is a better model, not only for surviving, but thriving. And then another name, author Richard Powers comments, there is symbiosis at every single level of living things, and you cannot compete in a zero-sum game with creatures upon whom your existence depends. And she writes, Serviceberries discovered this long ago, and we humans need to catch up.
Well, that's very interesting. Um, I think for someone who didn't major in a science like me, um, there's an overexposure of the Darwinian. And evidently, even the physical and biological sciences are taking another look at the way things work.
Yeah, right. I think so. And I think when we talk about the sciences, she would name that that's a pretty Eurocentric, American centric, that what
Mm-hmm.
we call sciences are actually a very small blip in the larger picture of what human history and human flourishing has
Mm-hmm.
discovered. We say it's got to be Darwin. We say it's got to be Adam Smith, right? We say it's got to be, these kind of loud voices, whereas there's a lot of other voices throughout history that have
Mm-hmm.
it's not always that way, or it's that way to an extent, but then it's also this other thing that's happening too. So anyway, as you can tell, I like the book. I felt like it was very meaningful read. Um, it's a short book. It's a pretty quick read for you. If you're listening to us online now and you haven't picked up the book, it's a pretty easy thing to pick up and find, and then do some reading because I haven't done enough justice to it, but what she has shared has had an impact on me for sure. Well, I'm going to close with one more couple pages of quotes that she shares. But before I do that, Margaret, any other words of wisdom or questions or things that you're curious about after hearing our discussion?
No, I'm eager to find the book because I think it is a direction that evidently the scientists and certainly um, those of us who want to live in a Christian society need to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you kind of began with that idea, right? This idea of, those who follow Christ. I mean, what's the old song? Blessed Assurance, right? And I think
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's a sense that it doesn't have to be about this world is so so broken and so disgusting that I have to escape from it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we can say, Bible I read says God called it good, and
Yes.
we've distracted from that good, or we have limited that good in part. But that doesn't mean it can't be good again. That doesn't mean we can't be a part of this. And I think Kimmerer gives us a blueprint for that. To say the God of assurance, the God of grace, the God of good gifts. What's Hebrews say? Good, all good and perfect gifts are from above, right? Um, that God is present. It's kind of gifted, a gift giving, gift economy mindset. So, here's the last thing that I want to read, and this is interesting because if you read her book, braiding sweetgrass, she quotes this this kind of model there too. So it must be pretty important to her. But it's this idea of the honorable harvest. And this idea comes from indigenous cultures. And it basically is a way to, she says, that it becomes a model for restraint, a model for reciprocity, a model for respect. That when we go into nature, we don't go with the mindset that it's a supermarket for us to grab whatever we can afford. But it's a model of instead saying, as I harvest, I'm going to do so with the assumption that what I harvest does needs respect too, right? Needs it has value also.
Right.
And so here are the things that she reads or that she writes, and she says usually the honorable harvest is a model that people talk about, but it's rarely written down. I think that's part of why she says she's put it in both of these books, because writing it down helps those of us who don't belong to that culture to understand what she's talking about. But I think it makes for a good benediction for us tonight, but then also a good kind of reminder of, every food that we eat, every time we sit down for a meal, it comes hopefully with the assumptions that the honorable harvest gives. So here's our benediction for tonight. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you so that you can take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for a life. Ask permission before taking, abide by the answer. Never take the first one, never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half, leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully, never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. And sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. God, you who are a God of good gifts, may these principles be a reminder for us that the earth that you called good, the creation that you lovingly formed like a potter forms out of the clay, Lord, may they be reminders of your love, of your giftedness, inspiration of our own gratitude, and then inspiration of our reciprocity that we might give toward others because we have received so much. I think of the old hymn, because I have been given much, I too must give. Lord, may that be our calling this day and in all days that we receive your good and perfect gifts. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you, Margaret. Thanks for the
Thank
conversation.
you, Matt.
And I look forward to hearing more about your thoughts and ideas after you read more of the book.
Yes. So I read some for next week then?
No. So this is just our one time. That's a good segue to kind of the way we conclude. So this is the one time we're going to look at this book. Now that doesn't mean you and I can't have more conversations down the road about the book once you get it and read it. But this series then will go on to another subject and go on to another book. Unfortunately, what I forgot to do was look up what the next book is, but we'll read another one here in a couple of months, and we'll have kind of a time of discussing that one as well.
Sounds good.
But yeah, we'll have several other things in the meanwhile, other events and other things going on, earthworks wise. But for the moment, now we take the Serviceberry and integrate these learnings into our life moving ahead.
Well, that's going to make a difference. Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you, Margaret. You have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.